It's opening night. There's tension and excitement. The tech crew is checking the sound and the lighting system. The set design crew, along with the stagehands, are putting the final touches on the backdrop. The makeup and costume crew are chasing the actors who are nervously practicing their lines for the last time. It's moments before the curtain opens, and they will all step into the spotlight and take their part in this epic drama. So much is riding on this moment. All winter, they've been meeting to rehearse their parts and refine their performances. They have braved the wind, the snow, and the general weariness that comes with the season and the constant rehearsals. What kept them going is the circled opening night on the calendar. The day has finally come. Winter is come and gone, and spring is here. Time has come for them to step onto the stage and take their part and prove that all their hard work has been worth the effort. Like these actors, God has given us a role in the grand drama that we call life. There are times when He will call us to step on the stage and perform the part that He has designed for us to play. These are exciting moments. Opening night in the spring when all seems possible. But the reality is that most moments feel more like the cold winter late night rehearsals. Seasons are outnumbered by foes, outmaneuvered by fate, and mostly undone by fear. We wonder if the part that we are to play matters at all. If anyone could relate to this, it was a young woman named Esther. Her story is one that rivals the great dramas of Hollywood. But unlike modern blockbusters, the events that happened in the book that bears her name and this are true. And the stakes could not be higher for the role that she's being called to play. The audience members have taken their seats. The director has given a nod to the conductor. The baton is lifted and the music begins. A quick read of the pamphlet provided by a helpful usher reveals the setting for our city is in the city of Susa in the 5th century BC. It was the winter palace of the kings of the Persian Empire. It was an empire that controlled more than 2.9 million square miles, comprising nearly 44% of the world's population, and spanned a distance from India to North Africa. As the lights come up, we see our first character. His name is Xerxes. History reveals his exploits. Recently, he suppressed a revolt of one of his subjugated countries, Egypt, and was planning a campaign against Greece. The Bible tells us that he was an atheist in character. Esther 1:3 reads this: In the 3rd year of his reign, he gave a banquet for all of the nobles and officials, the military leaders of Persia and Media. The princes and the nobles of the provinces were present. The military, for a full 180 days, he displayed the vast wealth of his kingdom and the splendor and glory of his majesty. The king promised wealth and reward to all of the warriors who would join him in his campaign. To prove that he could make good on his promise, he staged a 6-month extravaganza to put the vast wealth of his kingdom on display. It was a Mardi Gras of drinking and dining from hundreds of posts and ports, power brokers, officers, princes, emperors, and wannabes, schmoozed, feasted, and indulged. Toward the end of the carnival, the king's true colors began to appear. Esther 1:10 and through 11 reads this: On the 7th day, when King Xerxes was in high spirits from wine, he commanded the 7 eunuchs who served him to bring before him Queen Vashti, wearing her royal crown in order to display her beauty to the people and the nobles, for she was lovely to look at. Apparently the king and his expected his queen to dance in front of his drunk friends and leave them entranced in a cloud of perfume. But he was in for a surprise. Queen Vashti refused. Furious, The king conferred with his cabinet members, who were apparently as dense and drunk as he was. They huddled and strategized and told the king to make an example of Vashti by banishing her. There was a royal beauty pageant for her replacement. This pleased the king. And with these events in motion, the lights now move across the stage to the next two characters in our drama, an older man and a younger woman. The woman is Esther, and the man is Mordecai, her cousin, who raised her since birth. Here's how the story opens. Now there was in the citadel of Susa a Jew of the tribe of Benjamin, named Mordecai, son of Jair, son of Shei, son of Kish, who had been carried into exile into Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, among those taken captive with Jehoiachin, the king of Judah. Mordecai had a cousin named Hadassah, who was also known as Esther. She was beautiful. Mordecai had taken her as his own daughter when her father and mother were killed. Here we learn that Mordecai and Esther were members of the Jewish race. They were the descendants of the exiles of the people of Israel. If I had to pick a word to describe the Israelites of the Old Testament, I'd have many to choose from. Stubborn comes to mind. God called them a stiff-necked people. But they were also called to be holy. Biblically, that meant they were to be set apart. They were to live by God's standards rather than by the world's standard. It was a call to both display and demonstrate God's righteousness. When God called Abraham out of the land of Ur, he ordained him to be the father of a holy nation. Genesis 12:3 says this, I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all the peoples of the earth will be blessed through you. A global blessing would come in the form of the birth of Jesus Christ, a descendant of Abraham. The children of the patriarch were to be the curators and the caretakers of the promised seed of heaven. The Jews were the family tree that would bear the greatest fruit, the Redeemer of the world. For this reason, they were to remain distinct. They were not to marry non-Jews, worship pagan deities, or embrace the pagan culture. God summarized this high standard when he proclaimed in Leviticus 19:2, You shall be holy because I, the Lord your God, am holy. Sometimes the Israelites succeeded in meeting the standard, but far more often they failed. Eventually, God had determined to get their attention and turn their heads back to him and struck through exile. That tends to get your attention. In 586 BC, he allowed the Babylonians to sack Jerusalem, and forced deportations had begun. In 539 BC, the Persians sacked the Babylonians. Mordecai and Esther are the main characters in our drama, but in Act 1, they are nowhere close to resembling the heroes of our tale. Luckily, the story is not over. Just look again at the text. Now there was in the city of Susa a Jew in the tribe of Benjamin named Mordecai, son of Jair, son of Shimei, son of Kish, who had been carried off into exile from Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, among those taken captive with Jehoiachin, king of Judah. Now Mordecai was living in the citadel of Susa, a political thicket of the Persian Empire, and even worse, he was on duty at the palace. He didn't just live at the palace, he worked there. Also, he had adopted a pagan name. Mordecai was an adaptation of Marduk, a male Persian deity. It's hard to believe that a modern-day Jew would name his son Muhammad, or that a God-fearing Israeli citizen would work for the Iranian military. So how do we explain a Jewish man named after a pagan deity living off the Persian payroll? The answer is clear. Look again. Now there was in the citadel of Susa a Jew of the tribe of Benjamin named Mordecai, son of Jair, son of Shimei, son of Kish, who had been carried into exile from Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, among those taken captive with Jehoiachin, king of Judah. In other words, Mordecai was 3 generations removed from the first Jerusalem exiles, and somewhere along the line he'd begun to assimilate into the Persian culture, to blend in rather than to stand out. He'd gone clandestine with his convictions. He had deferred his theology to bureaucracy and swapped cultural identity for personal security. Even worse, he encouraged his family to do the same. Mordecai had a cousin named Hadassah, whom he had brought up since she had neither father nor mother. Hadassah comes from the Hebrew word for myrtle, which implies righteousness. The name fits because we will soon see that she's made of the right stuff and does take her place and take a righteous stand. But here in the beginning of the story, she is called Esther in deference to the Persian goddess Ishtar. History reveals that the polytheistic Persians, like the Babylonians before them, did not require their conquered peoples to give up their gods. Go ahead, sacrifice to your cow or your moon, just also worship the gods of Persia. But this presented a problem for the Jews who were to worship only God. They were to have no gods before him. The initial response by Mordecai to this dilemma is disguise and compromise. When the king's order and edict had been proclaimed, many young women from the citadel of Susa were put under the care of Haggai. Esther had not revealed her identity or her family background because Mordecai had forbidden her to do so. They had chosen to create a world of hidden identity. Say little, offer nothing, go unnoticed. Our people are adrift here in Susa. No one remembers Jerusalem or the temple. Best to make the best of it. So Esther was entered by Mordecai into a bachelorette contest. Knowing it included a night in the bed of a Gentile king. Show him a good time, keep your nationality a secret, were her marching orders, and she complied. The soft butter of their convictions melted against the warm knife of pragmatism. They buried their Jewish identity beneath layers of compromise. We face the same temptation today. Temptation to compromise. It affects us all, at work, at school, in social circles to which we belong. Everything around us says, conform. Be a part of the game. Forget your uniqueness. Blend in, fit in. Our society permits all beliefs except an exclusive belief. It's okay to do what you want as long as you accept what everyone else does. The incontestable value of our culture today is tolerance. Ironically, the champions of tolerance are intolerant of a religion like Christianity that adheres to one Savior and one solution to the human problem. To believe in Jesus as the only Redeemer is to incur the disdain of Persia. This is why we must remember our true identity. 1 Peter 2:11 says this, "Dear friends, I urge you as foreigners and exiles to abstain from sinful desires which wage war against your soul." We are temporary residents here. Our eternal citizenship is not the one that's printed on our passports. We are subjects of a different king. We are to follow a higher law and follow a greater good. We have the same mandate as the Israelites of the Old Testament, to be the caretakers of God's promise. The message of Jesus has been entrusted to us, and we have the hope that the world needs, especially a world that's wrapped in winter. It's not the time to blend in. It's not the time to assimilate. We were made for such a time as this. We are to heed God's call and follow his standard, and our standard is still holiness. The same God that told the Israelites, "Be holy, for I am holy." The Lord your God, be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. Also told the church, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good and pleasing and perfect will. Romans 12:2. Well, sadly, as the curtain closes on Act 1 of our story of Mordecai and Esther, they are not heeding this call. But fortunately, their part does not end here. And in the next act, they will recall their identity and accept God's invitation to partner with him. And God, who is happy to give his children a second chance, will put them to work. He will show them, just as he will show us, that they have been made for a specific mission that he has in mind.